Today, we'll talk about how the Democrats took advantage of Trump's biggest vulnerability to expose their own. And I chat with Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg about how he handled Republicans who tried to distance themselves from Project 2025 and J.D. Vance and Maruti Green trying to blame the Democrats for Trump's shooting. You're watching For Real, and my name is Brian Tyler Cohen. I would like to bring to your notice a particular comment that President Trump made during his first post-convention event that was held in Michigan.
And you know, the other side's going around trying to make me sound extreme, like I'm an extremist. I'm not. I'm a person with great common sense. I'm not an extremist at all. Like some on the right, severe right, came up with this Project 25, and I don't even know. I mean, some of them I know who they are, but they're very, very conservative, just like you have. They're sort of the opposite of the radical left, okay? You have the radical left and you have the radical right, and they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25. He's involved in Project, and then they read some of the things, and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it. But what they do is misinformation and disinformation.
The statement, "A hit dog will holler," underscores Donald Trump's uncharacteristic avoidance of the policy issue surrounding Project 2025. At a recent rally in Michigan, Trump even praised President Xi for his authoritarian rule over 4 billion people, indicating a penchant for autocracy. Trump typically doesn't shy away from controversial or unpopular stances, often garnering cheers from his less discerning supporters, who applaud even his complaints about mundane issues like toilet flushing. His willingness to embrace any position that resonates with his base highlights his calculated approach to pleasing an audience that lacks discernment. Therefore, Trump's concerted effort to distance himself from Project 2025 reveals its potential damage to his image. His vehement denials ring hollow, especially considering that top White House officials, including Russell Vought, Office of Management and Budget Director, Christopher Miller, Acting Secretary of Defense, Ben Carson, HUD Secretary, Peter Navarro, Paul Dans, Rick Dearborn, Ken Cuccinelli, and around 200 others from his administration have been deeply involved. This involvement aligns with the Heritage Foundation president Kevin Roberts' public statement about implementing the project since Trump took office. In essence, Trump's evasion tactics regarding Project 2025 contradict his usual bravado and suggest that the project's implications could significantly undermine his political standing.
We've been working with all of them on one project since soon after Joe Biden took the oath of office, before any conservative presidential candidates had even entered the race. As my friend and colleague Paul Dans before talked about briefly, our Project 2025 has developed a comprehensive policy agenda, but even more importantly, recruiting people, 20,000 people to go into the next administration, hopefully to help take back this country for you and for your audiences. We want no credit. We want the American people, if President Trump is elected again, President Trump and his administration, to take credit for that. But it will also be a great sign if all of this is successful, that in fact, as we know in our prayer time, but maybe not every time when we're watching the news, that the Lord is still smiling upon America.
It's probably obvious which one it is, and if it's not, you really don't have to, since Kevin Roberts revealed it in public as well. Therefore, either Trump is utterly uninformed about the responsibilities of those who would work for him in the White House, or he's only saying what has to be said to con the politically poisonous people into believing that he has nothing to do with Project 2025.
So when you see President Trump say this, and what you envision as being behind it tactically?
Well, I think it's the sign of a great leader who understands he's in a terrific political news cycle. He's run a really good campaign from start up to this point, and the left's mischaracterization of Project 2025 had become a liability. I think we've seen that really turn around in the last few days since that statement. So no hard feelings from any of us at Project 2025 about the statement, because we understand Trump is the standard bearer, and he's making a political, tactical decision there.
First of all, do these people think that these interviews are like Shakespearean asides where the audience can't hear what they're saying? Like, we have the internet, we have ears. When you say stuff out loud, Kevin Roberts, we will hear it. But second, that really is the whole ballgame. Even Roberts admitted that Trump is just saying what he has to say because he knows that Project 2025 is bad politics. So Trump will pretend that he has no idea who's behind it when he, of course, knows who's behind it. And he'll pretend that he has no idea what's in it when he, of course, knows what's in it, and he has every intention of enacting it. Take, for example, the one provision which I maintain is the single most chilling policy proposal in the history of this country. Donald Trump reinstating Schedule F. Schedule F is an executive order that Trump tried passing once in October of 2020, but it never took effect because he ultimately lost the election in November. It would reclassify hundreds of thousands of career civil servants who populate the government, people who work at the DOJ, the FBI, the IRS, the SEC. It would reclassify them as political appointees. Right now, a president can only replace about 4,000 people in the government when they take office. Trump wants to expand it to almost everyone. This would mean hundreds of thousands of experts in their field could be replaced with Trump loyalists. Think for a moment what a lawless president could do if, for example, the DOJ is staffed not with career prosecutors whose loyalty is to the law, but with political appointees whose loyalty is to Trump. Remember, for example, in 2020 when Trump and Republicans called for ballots to be thrown out in places like Detroit and Philadelphia and Milwaukee. Of course, it didn't work then because Schedule F wasn't in effect, and we had real prosecutors at the DOJ who wouldn't humor that kind of nonsense. But if it does go into effect and Trump's in office, now you have thousands of Trump sycophants in charge of validating those claims and deciding, you know what? We think there was fraud in these Democratic strongholds, and those votes just have to be thrown away. That means that suddenly, votes in big population centers that are at the heart of these bogus fraud claims would be at risk of getting tossed. Think about what happens in elections when the votes in Philly or Detroit or Milwaukee get thrown away. With that kind of power, it means that Democrats quite literally never win another election in this country again. What happened in 2020 was them testing the fence to see where it was weak, and they fixed the stuff that didn't go in their favor. This plan wouldn't be the first step toward autocracy. It would be autocracy. So yeah, Project 2025 is dangerous, and the more people who know about it can recognize the ways in which it will fundamentally change our country. The problem for Trump is that more and more people are learning what it is, which is why he's trying so hard to distance himself from it. But it's his plan, authored by his people, to be carried out in his White House. So take his denials as proof that we are hovering above the target here. If ever there was a topic to double down on, it's the one he's trying really hard to distract you from. Next up is a preview of my interview with Pete Buttigieg. But first, 2 quick announcements. The first is that I'm going on tour, so if you live in New York or DC or LA, and you want to see me in person with Al Franken in New York, Jen Psaki in Washington, DC, or Jon Favreau in Los Angeles, please visit BrianTylerCohen.com to get tickets, or click the link directly here on the screen or in the post description of this video. In addition, my book Shameless will be released in a few weeks. If you haven't already ordered it and would like a free signed bookplate that is only available during this pre-order period, visit BrianTylerCohen.com/sellbook or click the same link in the post description of this video. I would really appreciate it if you purchase the book or tickets to the shows. In the meantime, enjoy a sneak peek of my interview with Pete Buttigieg.
And you think gas prices are high now? Just wait until you're forced to drive an electric vehicle.
Navigating the complexities of the automotive industry and the shift towards more efficient and eco-friendly vehicles can be challenging. However, it's important to recognize that the evolution of fuel efficiency standards is not a new phenomenon, but one that dates back to the Nixon administration. The corporate average fuel efficiency, CAFE, Standards were first introduced during this time, aiming to make gas cars more fuel efficient. The initial standards required vehicles to achieve approximately 18 miles per gallon. Despite initial resistance from the industry, claiming these regulations were overly burdensome, manufacturers eventually adapted, leading to significant advancements in fuel efficiency. This push for innovation wasn't solely about environmental benefits. It was also about economic savings for consumers. By requiring the auto industry to produce more fuel-efficient vehicles, consumers could save money at the pump. This principle continues to drive current policies aimed at making both gasoline and electric vehicles, EVs, more efficient and affordable. Fast forward to today, the focus has expanded to include electric vehicles. The goal is not to force consumers into EVs, but to make them a viable and attractive option. Electric vehicles offer numerous benefits. They are more efficient, cheaper to fuel, with electricity being less expensive than gasoline, and cheaper to maintain due to fewer moving parts. Additionally, the cost of purchasing an EV is becoming more competitive with that of traditional gasoline cars, partly due to government tax credits and incentives. These efforts aim to provide consumers with choices that are both economically and environmentally beneficial. By making EVs more accessible and affordable, the government hopes to encourage their adoption without mandating it. The objective is to allow consumers to decide based on their preferences and financial considerations. However, this transition cannot happen overnight. The goal is to have roughly half of all vehicles be electric by the end of the decade. This gradual shift allows for the necessary infrastructure, such as charging stations, to be developed and for the auto industry to adapt to new manufacturing processes and technologies. It's also worth noting that arguments against these policies, such as those presented by figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene, often miss the broader economic implications. For instance, if more people drive EVs, the global demand for petroleum could decrease, potentially lowering oil prices. This nuanced perspective highlights the interconnected nature of energy markets and consumer choices. For those interested in learning more about these topics, interviews and discussions with experts like Pete Buttigieg offer valuable insights. These conversations delve deeper into the rationale behind current policies and their long-term benefits for both the environment and the economy. You can find these interviews and more content on my YouTube channel or listen to the audio versions of the episodes by following the provided links. Subscribing to the channel will ensure you stay updated with the latest discussions and developments in this evolving field. In conclusion, the push for more fuel-efficient and electric vehicles is a continuation of a long-standing policy aimed at saving consumers money and reducing environmental impact. By providing incentives and developing infrastructure, the government is working to make EVs a practical and appealing choice for consumers, ultimately benefiting both the economy and the planet.